Sheriff Caleb Ward had arrested many strange people in the town of Mercy Creek. A man who tried to rob a gas station with a fishing pole. A woman who stole 12 garden gnomes and claimed they were calling to her. 3 teenagers who painted a cow blue, then blamed local politics. And once, his own deputy, for accidentally locking himself inside the evidence room and eating 2 confiscated pies. So Caleb believed he had seen every kind of trouble a small town could produce. He was wrong, because at 1:47 in the morning, on a cold Friday night, Caleb Ward arrested a wounded alien fugitive on the side of Highway 19, and by sunrise, her mothership was floating above his little town, asking for her back. Mercy Creek was the kind of town people drove through without realizing they had passed it. 1 main road, 2 stoplights, a diner that closed whenever Ruth felt tired, a church bell that rang 4 minutes late every Sunday, and a police station so small that the break room, evidence room, and storage closet were technically the same room. Caleb had been sheriff for 9 years. He was 42, broad-shouldered, quiet, a little too tired around the eyes. The kind of man who spoke slowly because he had learned that people usually confessed if you gave silence enough time. He had grown up in Mercy Creek, left for the army at 18. Came back with a limp, a scar under his ribs, and a habit of waking up before dawn, even when nobody needed him to. His father had been sheriff before him, a hard man, a fair man, the kind of man who believed rules were the only thing keeping people from becoming wolves. Caleb believed in rules too, mostly. But he also believed that every rule had a person standing behind it, and sometimes that person was scared, or hungry, or hurt. That belief had made him a good sheriff. It had also made the town council complain that he gave too many second chances. Caleb called that policing. The council called it paperwork. On that Friday night, Mercy Creek was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that made old dogs bark at nothing. Caleb sat alone in his patrol truck outside Ruth's diner, holding a paper cup of coffee that tasted like burnt rope. Ruth had called it her midnight blend. Caleb suspected it was just regular coffee that had given up. His radio crackled. Deputy Arnold Briggs came through the speaker. "Sheriff?" Caleb lifted the radio. "Go ahead. You still out by the diner?" "Yep. You see anything weird?" Caleb looked at the empty road, the dark desert beyond town. The closed hardware store, a plastic bag rolling dramatically across the street like it had somewhere important to be. "No." Arnold paused. "Okay. Because Mrs. Bell said she saw a falling star land near Highway 19. Caleb rubbed his eyes. Mrs. Bell also reported a suspicious cloud last Tuesday. She said this one was glowing green. "The cloud? The star." Caleb sighed. "What exactly did she say?" Arnold shuffled papers on the other end. She said, quote, "The sky opened like a wound, and something screamed down into the desert." Caleb lowered the coffee. "That is more specific than usual." Also, her goats fainted. Caleb started the truck. "I'll take a look." "Want backup?" Caleb glanced toward the station lights in the distance. "Arnold, last time you gave backup, you tased a mailbox. It moved. It was windy. I stand by my fear response." Caleb smiled faintly. "Stay at the station." Highway 19 cut through the desert like a black ribbon. No houses, no stores, just telephone poles, dry brush, and the distant shape of mountains under moonlight. Caleb drove slowly. His headlights swept across the road. Nothing. Then the radio crackled again. Not Arnold. Static. Low. Metallic. Almost like breathing. Caleb frowned and tapped the dashboard. Not tonight. The radio whispered something. Not English. The truck lights flickered. Then Caleb saw it. A green glow pulsing beyond the shoulder of the road. He pulled over. Killed the engine. For a moment, he listened. Wind moved through the desert grass. Somewhere far away, a coyote cried. Then came a sound from the ditch. A weak metallic scrape. Caleb unfastened his holster. "Mercy Creek Sheriff's Department," he called. "Show me your hands." Silence. Then a voice answered. Soft, female, strained. "I do not know where my hands are supposed to be." Caleb paused. That was a new one. He took out his flashlight and stepped off the road. The beam cut through dust and smoke. There was a long black scar burned across the desert floor, like something had crashed and dragged itself for 50 yards. At the end of the scar, beside a twisted silver capsule, was a woman. At least, she looked mostly like a woman. She was tall, too tall. Her skin shimmered faintly bronze gold under the moonlight. Her hair was black with thin green glowing strands woven through it. Her eyes were bright amber, and not quite human. She wore a torn dark flight suit with silver plates across the shoulders and ribs. One side of the suit had been ripped open. Green blood stained her waist and dripped onto the sand. Caleb raised his flashlight higher. The woman lifted one hand slowly. In the other hand, she held a glowing knife. Caleb's voice hardened. "Drop the weapon." She looked at the knife as if she had forgotten it existed. Then she let it fall. It hit the dirt with a soft hiss. Caleb stepped closer. "Name." She blinked. "Nyra Sol." "Nyra Sol. You hurt?" "Yes." "Anyone else with you?" "No." "Any more weapons?" She looked down at herself. "Not that survived." Caleb stared at her. "That is a concerning answer." Nyra tried to stand. Her knees buckled. Caleb moved forward on instinct and caught her before she hit the ground. She grabbed his jacket. Her hand was burning hot. "Do not let them take me," she whispered. "Who?" Her eyes lifted toward the sky. "The Dominion." Then blue light flashed from the wreckage behind her. Something inside the capsule began to pulse. A symbol appeared in the air. Red, sharp, angry. Nyra panicked. "They are tracking me." Caleb looked at the glowing wreckage, then at the knife, then at the bleeding woman in his arms. Every police rule in his head stood up at once and started shouting. "Unknown weapon, unknown suspect, possible threat. Do not touch crash debris. Call state police. Call federal authorities. Call anyone with more jurisdiction and better equipment." But Nyra was shaking, bleeding, terrified, and standing barefoot in the desert, like someone who had run farther than her body could survive. Caleb took out his handcuffs. Nyra saw them and stiffened. "No cages. They're not a cage. They are restraints. That is, legally accurate." Her eyes narrowed. "You are imprisoning me. I'm arresting you. For what crime?" Caleb looked at the wreckage, then at the glowing knife, then at the burned ditch. "Landing without a permit." Nyra stared at him. "That is not a real crime." "It is tonight." He cuffed one wrist carefully. The metal touched her skin and instantly heated red. Caleb winced. Nyra looked embarrassed. "My body temperature is elevated." "You're melting county property." "I apologize." Caleb cuffed her other wrist anyway. The cuffs held, barely. He helped her toward the patrol truck. She limped badly. Every few steps, she looked up at the stars. "Are your people near?" Caleb asked. Nyra shook her head. "I have no people." Caleb heard the way she said it. Flat, final, like a door locked from the outside. He opened the back door of the truck. Nyra stared at the cage divider inside. Her breathing quickened. Caleb noticed. He had seen that look before. Veterans in crowded rooms. Kids in locked closets. People whose fear had a memory. He closed the back door, then opened the front passenger door. Nyra looked at him. "Prisoners sit in front? Wounded ones do. I am still under arrest? Very much." She got in slowly. Caleb removed his jacket and pressed it against her side. "Hold that." Nyra looked down. "You are helping me. You are bleeding in my truck. Is that forbidden?" "It is discouraged." Caleb walked back to the wreckage. The capsule pulsed faster. Inside, something was burning green. He didn't touch it. He photographed it with his phone. The photo immediately turned black. "Of course," he muttered. Then the capsule made a soft clicking sound. A small device shot upward from it, straight into the sky, and vanished. Caleb froze. Nyra whispered from the truck. "That was the beacon." Caleb turned slowly. "What kind of beacon?" Nyra's face was pale. The kind that says I have been captured. Caleb looked up at the stars. Well, he said quietly, that's inconvenient. He drove back toward town. Nyra sat stiffly in the passenger seat, wrists cuffed in her lap, one hand pressing his jacket to her wound. The dashboard lights flickered every time she breathed too hard. Caleb glanced at her. You going to explode? I do not think so. That pause was not comforting. I am unfamiliar with your biology. Same. She turned toward the window. Mercy Creek appeared ahead. A handful of yellow streetlights, dark rooftops, the diner sign buzzing weakly in the night. Nyra stared at it like she was looking at a painting. Your settlement is small. People say that. Is it military? Caleb almost laughed. No. It has guards. It has me and Arnold. That sounds insufficient. You have no idea. They pulled up to the sheriff's station. Arnold was waiting outside in a coat over his pajamas. He was 30, round-faced, nervous, and holding a flashlight like it might file a complaint. When he saw Nyra step out of the truck, he made a small choking sound. Caleb pointed at him. Don't scream. Arnold swallowed. I wasn't going to. Nyra's glowing eyes turned toward him. Arnold screamed. Caleb sighed. Inside. They brought Nyra into the station. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The little front office had 2 desks, one holding cell, a coffee machine, and a corkboard covered in missing dog posters. Nyra looked at the cell. Her face tightened again. Caleb noticed. You're not going in there. Arnold whispered. She's not? Caleb said. She's hurt. Arnold looked at her green blood. Then at Caleb. Sheriff, I don't know if our first aid kit covers space. We're going to Ruth. The diner Ruth? She stitched my arm once after the 4th of July parade. She used fishing line. It held. Nyra tilted her head. Your healer works in a food building? Caleb nodded. Small town. Ruth's diner sat across the street from the station. Its lights were off. Caleb knocked on the back door. No answer. He knocked harder. A voice shouted from inside, If this is about the pie, I know who took it. Ruth, it's Caleb. The door opened. Ruth Harper stood there in a robe, slippers, and a hairnet. She was 68, 5 feet tall, and had the terrifying calm of a woman who had survived 5 husbands and 1 health inspection. She looked at Caleb, then Arnold, then Nyra, then the glowing green blood on the floor. Ruth said, Nope. She started closing the door. Caleb stopped it with one hand. She needs help. Ruth opened the door again. She an alien? Caleb hesitated. Nyra said, Yes. Ruth looked at Caleb. See? That is why people should lead with information. They laid Nyra on the diner counter. Ruth washed her hands, put on reading glasses, and examined the wound. Nyra watched her suspiciously. Ruth pointed at her. You bite? Only enemies. Good. I'm retired from being one. Caleb stood near the window, watching the empty street. Arnold paced. I should call somebody. Caleb said, Who? State police. And say what? That we have an alien. Then what happens? Arnold opened his mouth, closed it. Nyra whispered, They will give me to the Dominion. Caleb turned. The Dominion is coming here? Nyra looked away. They already are. Ruth poured antiseptic onto a cloth. Nyra hissed. Ruth looked impressed. That hurt? Yes. Good. Means you're alive. She began cleaning the wound. Nyra gripped the edge of the counter so hard the metal bent. Ruth slapped her hand. Don't break my diner. I am in pain, and I am underinsured. Caleb stepped closer. Nyra, why are they after you? Nyra's amber eyes moved to him. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered, I stole something. Arnold raised both hands. See? Actual criminal. Caleb shot him a look. Nyra continued. A child. The diner went silent. Ruth stopped cleaning. Caleb's voice lowered. What child? Nyra swallowed. Not one. Many. 212. Arnold whispered. That is a lot of children. Nyra's face tightened. The Dominion takes children from conquered worlds. They train them into pilots, soldiers, living navigation corps. Caleb felt something cold move through him. Nyra continued. I was one of their wardens. You worked for them? Yes. Caleb's jaw hardened. Nyra did not look away. I believed what I was told, that the children were dangerous, that they needed discipline, that obedience saved lives. Her voice cracked. Then one of them asked me if stars looked different when you were free. Ruth lowered the cloth. Nyra closed her eyes. I opened the cages. I put them on a refugee ship. I sent them toward neutral space. And you ran, Caleb said. I stayed behind to delay the guards. Arnold looked at her cuffs. So the fugitive part is true. Nyra gave a bitter smile. I am a traitor to the Dominion. Caleb looked at her again. Wounded. Terrified. Still dangerous. But not the way he had first thought. Ruth finished bandaging her side. Congratulations, Ruth said. You are no longer leaking on my counter. Nyra looked down. You are skilled. I raised 3 boys and cooked breakfast for truckers. This is nothing.
Then every light in Mercy Creek went out. The diner fell into darkness. Only Nyra's eyes glowed. Arnold whispered, I hate that. Outside, the sky turned green. Caleb moved to the window. High above the town, a shape was forming in the clouds. At first it looked like a storm, then like a mountain, then like a city turned upside down. A massive alien mothership descended silently over Mercy Creek. It was dark silver, covered in green lights, wide enough to swallow the whole valley. The bottom of the ship opened in slow circular layers, like an enormous mechanical eye. Arnold's flashlight slipped from his hand. Ruth looked out the window. Well, she said, there goes the neighborhood. Nyra pushed herself off the counter. Pain twisted her face. Caleb grabbed her arm. Sit down. That is a Dominion carrier. I guessed. If they scan the town, they will find me. Then we move you. No. If I run, they will punish everyone here. Caleb looked at the mothership. Green beams swept across the desert, across the highway, across rooftops. The entire town began waking up. Lights flickered in windows. Dogs barked. Car alarms screamed. A deep voice boomed from the sky. Citizens of the human settlement. Every radio in town turned on. Every phone lit up. Every television screen glowed green. The voice continued. You are harboring Dominion fugitive Nyra Sol. Caleb looked at Nyra. She closed her eyes. Release her immediately. A pause. Then the voice became colder. Failure to comply will result in extraction of the entire settlement. Arnold turned slowly. Extraction means, Nyra whispered. They will take the town. Ruth crossed her arms. They can try. Caleb stepped outside. Rain had started falling. Not normal rain. Green droplets that vanished before hitting the ground. People stood in doorways across Mercy Creek, confused, afraid, looking at Caleb, because that was what people did when something went wrong, even if the thing was bigger than the sky. Mayor Lewis ran across the street in a bathrobe. Caleb, what is happening? Caleb looked up at the mothership. Complicated situation. Is that a spaceship? Part of the complication. Is it here because of you? Caleb said nothing. Mayor Lewis turned pale. Behind him, families gathered in the street. Ruth stood in the diner doorway. Arnold came out holding Nyra's glowing knife wrapped in a towel. Caleb looked at him. Why do you have that? Arnold whispered. It seemed important. It's evidence. It was humming. Evidence hums sometimes. A beam of green light struck the center of Main Street. The pavement smoked. A figure appeared inside it. Tall, gray-skinned, wearing black armor with green lines. Its face was narrow and cruel. 2 more soldiers appeared behind him. Then 6. Then 12. The first figure stepped forward. I am Commander Voren of the Dominion Recovery Fleet. Caleb walked toward him, slowly, hand near his holster. Sheriff Caleb Ward. Voren looked down at him. Your authority is irrelevant. People keep telling me that. You have custody of Dominion property. Caleb's eyes narrowed. She has a name. She has a designation. That's not how this works here. Voren's expression did not change. You will release her. Caleb looked back.
Nyra had stepped into the street despite her wound. Ruth stood beside her with a shotgun. Arnold stood on her other side, holding the towel-wrapped knife like it might bite him. Caleb turned back to Voren. What happens if I do? She will face judgment. What kind of judgment? Voren's mouth curled slightly. The final kind. Nyra's face went still. Caleb exhaled through his nose. That's going to be a problem. Voren tilted his head. You refuse? Caleb looked at the people of Mercy Creek. The diner, the station, the cracked sidewalks, the town that had annoyed him, raised him, disappointed him, and trusted him. Then he looked at Nyra, still cuffed, still bleeding, still standing. I arrested her, Caleb said. Voren's eyes narrowed. She is in my custody. Nyra turned toward him, shocked. Caleb continued. And until I know exactly what crimes she's accused of, what evidence you have, and whether you plan to execute her without a trial, she's not going anywhere. Voren stared. You challenge the Dominion? Caleb shook his head. No, I'm asking for paperwork, Arnold whispered. That might be worse. For one long second, nothing moved. Then Voren raised his hand. The soldiers aimed their weapons. Nyra stepped forward. No. Caleb drew his pistol. It looked very small against alien rifles. Ruth pumped her shotgun. That looked slightly less small. The whole town held its breath. Then the mothership above them shook. Not from Earth, from inside. A deep, whale-like sound rolled through the sky. Voren's expression changed for the first time. Fear. Nyra looked up. Her eyes widened. No. Caleb glanced at her. What? Nyra whispered. The children. Above them, the Dominion carrier's side split open. Not from attack, from something escaping. A smaller ship burst out of the mothership's lower hull, bright white and gold, trailing blue fire. The ship was damaged, but moving fast. Green Dominion fighters swarmed after it. Nyra stepped into the street. No, no, no. Caleb grabbed her arm. What is that? The refugee ship. The children. Nyra nodded, tears in her eyes. They were not supposed to come back. The white ship dipped toward Mercy Creek. A transmission crackled through every speaker. Small voices filled the town. Dozens of them, scared, excited, overlapping. Nyra? Warden Nyra? We found you. Are you hurt? We came back.